So yes, revolutionary greetings, comrades. I'm Comrade Pidgino Dimwengu from the Conscious Dream Study Group. I'm a co-chair of the class, of course, in charge of so many other things, including some sort of research, organization, planning of these issues, posters, and the rest. And we are a class that we are a class that meets every Thursday to study the philosophy of Kwame Nkrumah, which is the consciousness. Consciousness is the philosophy by Kwame Nkrumah, which actually Nkrumah packed his all thinking, some thoughts philosophically and ideologically, and then put it into a book called Consciousness. So we as a class, we study that book on a Thursday weekly basis. We go paragraph for paragraph, page per page. And we've been doing that for a period of time. We study the philosophy because it's the philosophy Nkrumah said and recommended for decolonizing Africa with three key aims for liberation, unification, and development of Africa. So that's what you do every Thursday. And out of the Thursday class, for the purpose of unification, we created the Saturday class, of course, informed by Sister Ida, in the need of Africans to continuously discuss about the unity of Africa. Because it seems that we are somehow becoming comfortable with the small territories you are in the name of countries, and we are forgetting about that we as Africa do not need to exist as countries, as per the Berlin Wall. We need to exist as one continent, one government. And we have been having problems in the continent, and we assume, or we are so busy trying to find the problems, forgetting about the bigger solution or the salvation of Africa. As Nkrumah said, we either unite or perish. So we have been in the process of perishing and trying to struggle with the challenges that we face, forgetting that this unity and unity of Africa is a shield and a protection of Africa resources, Africa people, and everything else in Africa. So we created the Saturday class, particularly now to start discussing the unity of Africa. Let people come in and engage their mind on the agendas, discussions, and topics that can help us actually start spearheading the Africa unification. I know the African Union talk of it in 2063, but we want to discuss it. What must we do in order to actualize and realize the unity of Africa? We've been trying the separation, the countries for so long, the regional blocks, but for over 60 years or 70 years, the problem of Africa are increasing and increasing. Hence, a need for a dialogue back to the unification of Africa. We are one people. The boundaries divide us. Their religion they bring in, but we are one people. And if we can embrace that, we will not be fighting over the borders like Congo and Rwanda. We will not be fighting under Amazonia or Cameroon, under the proxies of the West. They will not use any of our leaders to divide us or actually bring issues that today, if they have a problem, they'll sponsor one African leader to fight the neighboring leaders because you are not united. But if you are to have a one united government, then things could be right for us. And it's a time we must discuss and continuously discuss this. And this space every Saturday is open for that discussion. It's open for Africans to start thinking what must be done. It's not about it is impossible. It is possible. But let us discuss further and engage our mind so that we can think of what must be done. So this is the purpose of this class. And once again, I welcome you all, comrades. We apologize for inconveniences that have been taking place here and there. We believe there's a technical issues going on, but we are not afraid. We are not going to stop this. We must keep moving. So as usual in our Saturday classes, we start, of course, with the current affairs in the continent, but time has really gone. So I will go very fast on this journal or this magazine. Sometimes we found it of late. We are trying to review it as it covers some few news across the continent. So I'll do it very fast in the next maybe maximum of 10 minutes, just read briefly on what has been covered in the continent. Then we'll go straight to our discussion today. We today intend to discuss the building of a united, liberated, and developed Africa. But we are trying to review the interview that was done by, of course, Carlson and Putin on what Putin talked about, what historical issues he rose, he brought forth, what advantages of a united government or a united continent from what he was talking about USSR and where he's positioning his mind and his talk, how he views the West and how the West is also affecting African unification or interfering in African affairs, and what we think is Africans and Pan-African? What's the best way forward? So we are taking Putin's recent interview as just a review of his interview with an intention to help us learn on what we need to do to build a continental African government, the lessons we learn from that, the expose he gave us about the West, how do we handle that and tackle that, and how do we plan to evade that in case we want to build an Africa we want for ourselves. So that will be the main topic of our discussions today. So without wasting much time, permit me to recognize the presence of people in our midst today. Assisi Friday is in, HR Palesa, Kambule is in, John is in, Joseph Anton is in, Sister Mara is in, Sister Mary X is in, Olabi, Brother Roger is in, Chief Mabaso is in, and I know many people will be joining because we had some technical issues. We will actually be looking forward to them. Our chair is here now, Kwame. And I've said before, we've been experiencing some technical issues, which I believe is something else. My brother Kwame, feel free to invite and welcome members on board before I move to the magazine. Thank you. Brother Kwame.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Yes, I don't know what has happened. We've been trying to start this meeting from both Kenya and the UK, and both of us have been experiencing technical problems. I even found out that all my sockets had gone off for no reason. And I was speaking to Pamela earlier, and then I was cut off. I can only think of some kind of electronic sabotage. But anyway, here we are where we are. On behalf of CSG, I would like to welcome you all to today's meeting to discuss the Carlson Putin interview and its implications for Africa. So welcome you all. We've lost 30 minutes already. Very unusual. We don't normally extend our meetings, but if members feel up to it, we can extend the meeting and make up the lost time because of the importance of the topic and the fact that we've experienced these technical problems. So on behalf of CSG, we welcome you all. This Saturday class was inspired by our own sister Ida, who is here with us. She inspired this class for us to begin to talk about the unification of Africa, the fact that it is not part of the everyday conversation of our people, and yet it is fundamental to our strategic security. And so it's important that ordinary Africans are discussing this. So what we'd like to do today really is to open it up for you who have joined, basically to share your views, because we shared the interview. It's about 2 hours long. We've shared it, and we just want to have a discussion and hear from everyone. About 3 to 4 minutes, depending on the number of us who want to speak. Just share your views. And basically, we want to open it up to you for a conversation. Tell us what you think, share what you think, comment on other people's views, and so on. We are thinking of hearing from Carlson himself again, because when he left Moscow, he went to Dubai and he gave about a 4-minute interview. Well, I don't know if the whole meeting was 4 minutes, interview was 4 minutes, but what we have on the internet is 4 minutes. We also have a video done by Candace Owens of the US, but that one is long. It's about 38 minutes long, and we can't hear all of it. But at some point, we'll hear what she has to say, and we regard her as part of this conversation. So we regard Carlson and Candace as part of this meeting. So today is for us. Please feel free to share your views, what you thought about the video, and so on. Special welcome to HRH Palesa Kambule. Welcome. John, it's good to see you. Brother Roger, you haven't joined us for a long time. It's good to see you also. So Brother Pigeon. Yeah, let's hear from you. Now, this magazine or newspaper called The Continent is what we have been able to find. Now, some people complain that it doesn't deal with continental issues to do with unification, liberation, and development. Now, that is what we've been able to find. I mean, short of we producing our own The Continent that deals specifically with liberation, unification, and development, this is what we have. If anyone listening here today would like to also join with us to start a similar magazine that will focus on the topics of interest to Pan-Africanists, we shall work with you. But until then, we will deal with what we have. The importance of this magazine is that it brings home to us the issues that the conservatives and the liberals are focused on. So if we think that what they are focused on does not focus on what we think are important, then that is a call for us. You don't expect your enemy in code to do for you what will be in your interest. They will do what is in their organized interests. It's for you, radical Pan-Africanists, to do what is in your organized interest. At this point, the time is 7:35 UK time or GMT, and I'll hand over to Brother Pigeon to go through The Continent with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you
once again.
Thank you, Brother Kwame, for welcoming members, and thank you everybody who has joined us. So I'll go very fast in the next 10 minutes, if possible, to go through highlighting the issues that have been raised by the continent in terms of what's going on in Africa, maybe to give you an opportunity to learn what's going on in Africa. So in Zimbabwe, we started with Zimbabwe, where the authorities are battling to contain a deadly cholera outbreak. So there's a cholera outbreak in Zambia, not Zimbabwe, Zambia, that began in October and has killed 400 people and infected at least 10,000 people so far. So the country is battling with that in Zambia. If we go in Cameroon, beer goons guilty, but get slap on wrist. So a Swiss Court of Appeal upheld 2 judgments against 6 of President Paul Biya guards who assaulted a journalist in 2019. The list of the journalists is there. Then in court, their lawyer asked for immunity, saying the guards were protecting the president, but they were still found guilty for that. In Somalia, there's intimate partner violence sparks protest. There's a murder of 3 women, allegedly at the hands of their inmate partners, has caused demonstration over the rise of femicide in Somalia. 2 of the women were reported pregnant at the time of their deaths. So that's also a story that you need to check on in Somalia. In DRC Congo, SADC military intervention in DRC claims its first lives. So 2 South African soldiers were killed and 3 were injured in the first week of DRC mission by southern nations, to which South Africa is contributing 2,900 troops alongside deployment of Tanzania and Malawi. A similar mission by the East African Commission ended without de-escalation in the Eastern conflict. So the Eastern region is off, the MONUSCO were away, now the Southern has come in. As it goes, I say that the UN mission is also ending with little to show. A South African helicopter in the UN mission was recently damaged by the ground fire, incurring its crew. Now, in Liberia, there's a wage wiring, which is WAG, Get War Wigger asked. The wives and girlfriends of Liberian soldiers have had the country's newly appointed defense minister booted from office. Former warlord Prince Charles Johnson has been appointed by the newly elected Joseph Boakai while protesting against military corruption, living conditions in barracks and low wages for their husbands. Army spouses demanded that Johnson be sacked. There's a very positive action from the women. In Senegal, there's approval of election delay was illegal. Approval of election delay was illegal, says top court. Parliament acted unconstitutionally on 5th February when it passed a bill rubber-stamping President Macky Macky Sall decision to delay the presidential election. So the country's constitutional council ruled that on Thursday. It also annulled Sall's 3rd February postponement decree and said that while it's no longer possible to schedule the election on 25th February as scheduled, it should be held as soon as possible. In Seychelles, opposition leader in the clear. You're not a wizard or Haman, that's the title, but as if by magic, witchcraft charges against Seychelles opposition leader Patrice Hamen has been dropped. So it seems witchcraft cases were taken to court here. The public prosecutor gave no reason for dropping them. Last year, dozens of police raided Hamen party's office, claiming they had connected him to two bodies that had been exhumed for ritual purposes for a cemetery on Mahe Island. That's also a story there. In Indonesia, it's not relating a bit to Africa, but former dictator, top enforcer headed for presidency. Controversial Indonesian General Prabowo Subianto appears set to enter the presidency on his third run for power. He claimed victory on Wednesday night. So that's also there on Indonesia bit. In Malawi, room to rob and to trample folks to death. African parks and NGOs that has had British Prince Harry Windsor as president and board member moved more than 250 elephants into a Malawi game reserve that doesn't have adequate fencing. 7 people in the area have been killed by the elephant in the 18th month since, the Guardian reports. In partnership with the Malawian Parks Service and another NGO, the project moved the elephant for a better fenced area. There's a war in the US, which they say in 2002, 23 Africans died in terrorist attack. Then the US brought its war on terror to the continent. A new report from the Pentagon shows that in 2022, 23,000 Africans died in terror attacks. Very disturbing. This finding contradicts claim by the US African Command that it counters transnational threats and malign actors. Nick Charles, a contributor to the Continent, wrote that. In Palestine, they are touching about Palestine a bit, which is also not our interest as much, but they say Rafah's population got dropped to 1.4 million as the Israel army drove Palestine out of the rest of Gaza. In Angola, civil slavery fueled favors for first ever general strike. So workers want to raise the minimum wage by 75%, but the state says they must be out of their mind. A story is here. I'll just read the first part of it. Angolans will next month embark on the country's first general strike since independence in 1975, focused on a dispute over the country's current minimum wage, $38 a month, slave wages according to the Laborers Union. They say that anyone who receives $38 in a month is nothing more than a real slave. So that's a story that's very interesting and we need to check on it clearly. Those who are interested, I'll share the copy of this on our chat on this magazine so you can follow up later. In Ghana, they're saying first cousin of finance disinherited from cabinet. President Nana Akufo-Addo has bowed to pressure and sacked his finance minister and his cousin, who is Ken Ofariatta, interrupting a multi-generation tradition of nepotism among the Akufo-Addo or Ofori-Atta families. That's also a story we can follow up. It's there in this magazine. In Russia, they're talking a lot about Alexei Navalny dies in prison. That will not be a concern much now, but you can also be able to check that. As we move further, there's a Maria Resse, we are no longer living in the same shared reality. This was an interview which is on CNN, not much on Africa, but I'll share this copy so that you can go through all of it at your own time. Then as we move along to, there's a story on tech is already being used to manipulate us. From Egypt to South Africa, fake accounts, bots, and generative AI are already manipulating African politics. And 2024 is a record year for elections. Yeah, there's a story which is also interesting here. The politicians are used to manipulating will be voters through overhyped promises or outright threats, vote for me or lose your social grant, is an area of constant innovation, from rallies in the mega stadium to billboards, adverts, and all that. So these are new also story that's covered here. There's an interest for you to check on that if you're interested. Like they're saying, in Kenya, researchers at the Mozilla Foundation uncovered a network of 33,700 Twitter accounts, which pushed at least 11 paid disinformation campaigns. So, yeah, whatever we have witnessed here is like before this class, like the cyber attack to our class. So it's something that's worth recognizing. There's a story of one of our marathoners from Kenya who died. He's called Kevin Kiptum. This is a young man who won the races recently. He actually put a record at the Valencia Marathon. Sorry. Valencia Marathon in December 2022, where he actually broke the record by 2.00. So he died on a road accident in Kenya. Here is the story we're still following together with his coach. While they were on their way, I don't know, from a party. They claimed that the vehicle actually got in touch with a tree, but the vehicle was actually injured on the sides. The bonnet was never injured, but he's dead. So stories are still coming up. 3 people have been arrested who appear to be have visited his family prior to his death. So these are stories that's going on in Kenya. You can find us through to follow it fully. This is the same marathoner. It's called Kevin Kiptum from Kenya. So it's a worth story to check there. Ghana want to walk its talk on ship-breaking regulations. There's also a story here, taking advantage of Ghana's environmental laxity. More ship owners are dumping all vessels on its coast. So it's a story that you can also be checking. As we move a bit faster, because of our time, booze ban bruises liquor like as spirit. Many in Nigeria favors totalitarian. Hey, that's a word I'll try to. Totalitarian, but it is a hard sell for many more. So there's a story, I think, is a struggle for alcohol and liquor there in Nigeria, which we can check on it as we move along. Then digital news surge, but radio is still a king. So these are comparison on how people read the digital news. So you see on average in 30 countries, 2/3, which is 67% of African adults, say that they get news every day or a few times a week through their radio. So 67% still prefer the radio, down just a bit by 72%. We checked during a half of the adults, which is 53%, and the rest of the survey. So others who depend on the digital is 13%, there's a 40%. Is the data that is what analysis also for most of us who are interested on digital media. So let's take in on this. The research is poorly done here. So I will send a copy, check on this, if you're in the space of media and everything else, to understand those statistics. Now, I think as we move, there's nothing left here apart from the Macky Sall, Ding Macky Moss. Is a story that's still going on here on Macky Sall issues and the elections. So last is the new reforms, same results. Tanzania upcoming elections will tell if the president's reform may have enabled opposition to bounce back. We know the story of opposition in Tanzania. They were actually suppressed during the Magufuli term, but now they're coming back. So basically, that the news on the continent. Back to you, Brother Kwame.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we should move straight into the discussion for today, which is a Putin-Carlson Tucker interview. Yeah. So so we'll open the floor. So the Brother Pigeon has gone through the magazine. If you're not happy with the issues it covers, then you have to do something about it. Well, what we are doing is to show you that these are the issues that the liberals and the conservatives are interested in. And so if you think that we, the radical Pan-Africanists, must have our own similar magazine or newspaper that must cover things that we are interested in, then that is something we have to do. So we won't discuss the content, but if you are speaking, you wish to refer to any of them, please feel free to do so. Thank you. So, yeah, so the floor is open. Shall we proceed? Who would like to go first?
Well, I just want to find out if it's true, based on the news, that the we have the first woman defense minister in Liberia. Just wanted a clarification. I didn't hear too clearly when the pigeon was. Just want to know that.
Did you cover that? Does it say so in the continent?
I don't talk of that, but I'm aware of that appointment of the first female in Liberia.
Okay, can you share that with us? So what is the issue there? The fact that she's a woman, or?
Yeah, I think sometimes, I mean, even though we know what Liberia is like, I think it's good to know that even the domain of the military is not closed; it's being opened up to women now. So that is what I wanted to know.
Yeah, I think we need more women in all kinds of offices on the continent. If you look at the continent today and all that is happening, basically you see that the men are not doing a good job, even though they dominate almost every sphere. The men are not doing a good job. So I think we need more women to take on more roles. Thank you, Brother Joseph, for drawing that to our attention. Okay, so as we said, the floor is open. We'd like to hear from you and what you think about the interview. So, Sister Ida, would you like to start first?
Okay, if I must, I've just spent the last 2 hours listening to it, so I'm happy to.
Well, I wouldn't say you must, but it would be nice if you did.
Okay, I thought from the interview, to be very honest, I thought that sounded like the CIA were running America, and not the Democrats or the Republicans or the president. So I'd like to throw that out because it does sound like I think in the past they used to was it with the Contras? I can't remember the name particularly, but they started wars and stuff. The CIA have always been involved with things, and that was one of the things that stuck in my mind when I was listening to this interview. The other thing that I thought was interesting, I love the fact that everybody's been going on how bad our news is, that they encouraged the West to think that the Russians were almost on the point of bankruptcy at some point. But it's far from the truth. Their oil has come in, their gas has come in, and they seem to be doing very well, and they seem to be very strong. They're all obvious. They sound like the big manufacturers of their own arms. But I don't see them. I didn't hear them sounding like they were warmongers. If anything, they kept saying, even towards the end, Putin kept saying, well, I think he kept saying that he would like to see peace still, but it's, they've already tried and people have agreed and then they've gone back on it. So, and my last point I'd like to make is, I think that Boris Johnson shouldn't think that he's going to get away with being quiet when he was a big instigator in this war of Ukraine. And we're now finding out. And, I just think he and Tony Blair, sorry, they're as bad as each other. So I think I'll leave it for everybody else to get in.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Ida, for your comments. Now, on Boris Johnson, I don't know if all of us here are aware, but it is on record that guy is a serial liar. He's basically a liar and should never have been Prime Minister of the UK. But then when you think that the UK is a Western country, one of the leading Western countries, and the West's media are the top liars, it kind of puts things in context. But for those of us who were involved in the tech sector in the UK, when Boris first wanted to be mayor of London, we raised issues with Boris's lying and racism, because I don't know if you know, apart from being a liar, Boris is a racist. He's called Africans pickaninnies, he's called us names, and so on. So maybe personally he's a nice person, but he should never really have held office. But it is what it is. So thank you for sharing your views, Sister Ida. Let's go to Brother Joseph. Brother Joseph, your views on the interview.
Yeah, I must confess I didn't have time to listen to the whole interview. I started listening to it even before Brother Pigeon suggested that we have it as a issue for this week. But I think the most important thing that could be deciphered from it is the need, and Putin really did it cleverly and strongly at the beginning. It's to set the context in which things happen, the backdrop, and the history, understanding the history of Russia, how it struggled to become a nation and also continue to be a nation based on all the threats around it. And I think, and also learn what Putin saw happen to the Soviet Union through the efforts of the West. Soviet Union is no longer, not because there was something bad about the Soviet Union, but so I think I will open up here by stating that, and then to Sister Ida, the American society, the country of America was really not run by Democrats. They always run by a small group of people who, even at independence day, and they were against the rule of the king, they ensure that it's just a small group of people continue to run the society. And at the time when they also excluded a large section of the American population, the enslaved people mainly, and the indigenous people. So they were never run. It was only an illusion. It's coming clearer and clearer now. Is the military complex people, the oil barons, the grain barons. These are the people that run the company. And you mentioned about the contrast. Remember the Iran Gate contrast, where even though the Senate, the U.S. Congress had barred aid, they went behind Poindexter and others. The history is there. So it's important that we have a holistic approach when dealing with issues. So I think the Tucker Carlson Putin interview answer a lot of questions about what we've been told about the West, that, Russia is aggressive, they want territory and all that kind of thing, and we could understand that. But finally, although I hope that is not my final contribution, we could learn the lessons. We could learn lessons from Russia's experience, and probably we need another session to really further scrutinize what it is that we really need to do as a people, melanin people, to really unify Africa and its people. I'll stop here for now. Thanks.
Yeah, Brother Joseph, thank you very much for your contribution. Indeed, I don't know if all of us know, but the Russian television, RT, has an office here in London. And when this war started, that office was shut down by the British government. And Europe as a whole, also the UK, basically took RT off the air. So we never had access no more to RT. And they didn't want us to hear the Russian view of anything. And what we heard was that the powers that be wanted to control the narrative. And so since the war started up till now, until Carlson's interview, we didn't really hear directly from Putin on what was going on. And so what has happened is that Carlson, in a way, has undone all the false narratives that we've had. And like you said, that Russia was a warmonger, Russia wants to take over Europe, Russia wants to do this. And as Sister Ida said, there was nothing like that. The question for us is, if the West can do that to Russia, that is so strong, then what will they not be able to do to us? What should we, how should that inform our own strategic thinking as Africans? You know, and I know that the liberals and the conservatives are asleep. Those guys who run the continent of Africa, they don't understand any of these. And if they do, they are not interested. They really are not interested in any strategic thinking about how to secure Africa. So it's down to us, the radical Pan-Africanists, who also are not in office in any of the African countries. We're not in office anywhere. We are not seriously fighting any election. We haven't won any election. But it's down to us to basically act. So thank you very much, brother Joseph, for your contribution. Let's now hear from, I think it's Her Royal Highness from the name, Palesa Kambule.
Royal greetings to all of you, comrades. To you, Chair, all the protocol observed. I'm so grateful to be part of this meeting today. I'm Her Royalness Princess Palesa Kambule from South Africa in Johannesburg. I currently wear different hats. I'm also a member of a state of diaspora as a member of the parliament. But the reason why I'm raising my hand, it's all about the interview about the president of Russia, Dr. Putin. Okay, we have our own challenges here in South Africa about the issue of the land, as also as being the traditional leaders, and also about the false history that was written of making people now to fight black on black. When they see someone from Zimbabwe, they fight, they call it, they say the person is the foreigner, of which we are still trying so hard to teach on that there's no way. Just going back a little bit about myself, I'm from the Lamini clan, which we are from Embo. And when we traced our history, it went back to Egypt, even 930 BC, before Christ was born. But I don't want to go too deep on that. I just wanted to go on what the president was explaining today, Putin. Putin was really explaining about his history on the interview. Although I'll be very much honest, I didn't listen to the whole history. I was very much excited of how he was responding to the interview. But when you go back to history, in 1950 here in South Africa, we were enforced to something that was called apartheid, where it was separating blacks and whites. And the main country that was pushing that, it was Ukraine. And when Ukraine introduced that to the government of that time, it was Dutch, and also it was the Britain that were handling the government in South Africa in the 1950s. And they were every time told that we've got nuclear bombs. If you don't inflict this law of apartheid, make sure that you separate the blacks and the whites, and you make the blacks in their own country to suffer, you know? So growing up and going to varsity and understanding the history, I started very much, having this kind of hatred of how could these people treat us like that. So when the war started, so that's why I'm saying I didn't listen to the whole interview, but the first part of the interview, for me, it was just an excitement, because really for me, I felt that the God of Africa was answering to our prayers of how we have suffered, of how our grandparents have suffered, of how they were taken, they took their land, they took their cows, they took everything from them in the name of apartheid. And we were then named names of monkeys and all of these kind of things that when we grew up, we were not sure that we are fully human beings or not. So just to say I'm very grateful for this platform, and I am so happy that I was also invited to be part of this platform, because I've been in the struggle in South Africa for years. Till date, I'm still struggling to get back what was taken from us, from our great grandparents. And now with what Putin is actually saying on the interview of what I got, that was the part that I was very happy and excited of fighting the West, because the West really took everything from us, everything, completely everything. Today, I'm waiting for the same government of South Africa to recognize me to be a chief. To be a chief, or to be a queen, or to be a princess, you are born. You don't need anybody to recognize you. But this is the way of living that we are living, and we are just persevering, because you know what? We don't know. We don't know where to go. We don't know what to say. We don't know. And also going back to the magazine, that magazine for me, it was just talking something that was just not important. We've got serious issues in South Africa. We've got serious issues in Africa that they can be out in the magazine, and then people, they can learn. We've got a lot of numbers of Africans that are staying in the diaspora, that will really, that they are eager to know and to understand what is happening in Africa. But unfortunately, there's no platform. So with this platform, I'm so happy and grateful that we can also, contribute on saying, no, that magazine, can we then put on serious issues that we are actually facing day to day as Africans in Africa, that even those that are on Europe or everywhere in the world that are Africans, they can know, and then they can also grow and benefit from that. Thank you so much for this platform.
Yeah, thank you very much, Her Royal Highness. So that magazine, the magazine that brother Pigeon reviewed in the beginning, it's, in a way, we are saying to us all here that the liberals and the conservatives, these are the issues of interest to them. And if we are not happy with those issues, and brother Renumi, who is, I believe, is here now, has himself expressed concern about why we are even reading that magazine in here on Saturday. But that is the whole point. We need some of you to decide to basically start our magazine, a magazine for radical Pan-Africanists, because we don't have it. I remember I was in South Africa in 1996, 2 years after the official end of apartheid. I was in university at the time when apartheid ended, and we celebrated. I remember we being in a pub and drinking and asking each other, do you understand what has just happened? Do you understand what has just happened? And then we saw those long queues for the election. Yeah, and a lot has happened since. So thank you very much, HRH. Yeah, thank you so much. Let's hear from others. So we've got some hands up. Let's hear from Marie X. Marie X, do I take it you are a member of the Nation of Islam? Is that what the X is for? Just asking. Yeah, Marie X, please feel free to speak. Thank you.
Unmute. What's going on? Hello. Yep. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Right.
So your view of the interview, yeah? Your view about the interview and its implications.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm having problems with my... Right.
Africa's liberation, unification, and development.
Okay, so like I watched that film, yeah, with Putin, okay, and I thought it was a brilliant interview. And I also think that Putin is very good at managing these Western idiots, right? And the takeaway for me was revenge is a dish best served cold, okay, I found his history lesson not only topical, but very relevant. And I wish when we spoke about like the oppression that we've gone through, we could contextualize things to that extent. I think we need to take a leaf from his book, right? Be detached, analytical, and logical. Because I think we're so hurt. Because these people, as we say, they ain't gonna change. They're never gonna change. They're never gonna like us. There's no point in negotiating with them. There's no point in accepting that they're ever gonna be our friend. Okay? So to a certain extent, we must become disinvolved, detached, analytical, logical, cold. You know, when someone pees me off, that's how I get. Yeah. And I get very, very incisive. I don't need to make noise, but I act. And I wish that the collective, and I've won many battles on my own, dangerous battles on my own in that respect. And I wish the collective could get it. You know, there's no point in sort of like, you know, lamenting over what they've done to us. They've done it because they thought they could. Well, now we're here to say they can't. And we've got to be very incisive about it. That's all I have to say. And I'm not a member of the Nation of Islam, but I have a lot of respect for them.
Okay.
I've interacted with them for decades, right? Okay. And I have a lot of respect for the support that they lend to the community, irrespective of religion. I am connected with Islam in ways which I don't need to go into here, right? But I see myself and, you know, members of the Nation of Islam as being one, especially given the fight that we have on our hand. I see them as a very, very special group, and I have a lot of love in my heart for them.
Thank you very much. I asked because of the X. As you know, they all have X after their name. No, thank you, Sister Marie.
I might become an X, who knows?
Yeah, thank you, Sister Marie, for drawing our attention to the history lesson. Putin did say three minutes, but it took about half an hour. And as you said, the history of Africa, going back all the way to the invasion of Europe by the Moors, who were Africans, and the setting up of the universities in Europe, and so on and so forth. Now, all that history throughout, all the way through slavery, colonialism, and today neo-colonialism. The take, and you are right, the take for us, that take must be that history is so important. And of course, a lot of us also are interested in history. We have drawn attention to the history of Africa, and most times we focus on ancient Egypt and its role in civilization. And I think the take from this is that we must at all times put things in historical context. Now in Nkrumah, in Conscientism, which is a book we are studying on Thursdays, makes a point in chapter 3 about the role of history, and history as an instrument of ideology. So thank you very much for drawing our attention to that. I know there are some hands up, but I would ask the gentleman to just hold on for a moment. Let's hear from some more ladies first. So Sister John, would you like to say a few words on your thoughts about the interview?
Yes. I'm painting while I'm listening, so bear with me. Yeah, I have some thoughts on it.
Okay. Would you like me to come back to you later, or?
No, I'm down from the ladder now.
Okay, so you're able to talk. Excellent. Carry on then.
So I'm really grateful to be here. Pam told me about it. Since Pam told me about it. So I don't know if I've got this right, but it's to discuss dissect the interview with Putin and Tucker Carlson. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, that's
my
correct.
opinion.
Its implications for us,
yes,
for Africa, in terms of our liberation, unification, development.
So thank you. My opinion on this interview is not so much what the interview was and what was said as to why the interview actually exists. For me, it's a bit of showmanship. It's quite scary. It's like a boxing match at Madison Square Garden, and everybody wants to turn up to see who's the cleverest or who's the wittiest, except one of them is a dictator, and the other one is a dangerous right-wing media mogul. For me, the existence of the interview, regardless of what is said, regardless of whether Putin came across as an interesting politician with a great intellect, he's still murdering people. And Tucker Carlson is a troublemaker and a racist. And to have that interview for 2 hours between the two of them, it was just a boxing match that people didn't pay to see. It bears no influence on anything apart from it's a distraction. And that's what the media is doing with politicians. That is the way of the world now. Politicians are showmen, showmen are politicians, journalists are showmen and part politicians. You cannot tell who is doing what and why anymore. We just know that there is an ongoing agenda, and that is that the Western world believes that it is in charge, and it will do anything to stay at the top of the narrative. And this battle has been going on for centuries. So it's not actually what was said, it's why it exists, is my concern. Because it's a distraction. Yes, it makes us think, what does this mean for Africa? Nothing has changed. That interview is two showmen having a word tussle together. It's a distraction. So to me, I would say, what does it mean to Africa? What it means to Africa is that it's a reminder that we are always having to look to the white Western world to take our guide on what to do next, when in fact, even though they do have influence, they are, from my point of view, they're championing the right-wing agenda by staying in the mainstream, by staying in the top of the media, by causing a drama, by causing a media coup, by doing this interview. Tucker Carlson is a rubbish journalist. He was just trying to improve his career. And, as you said before, Russia has its own mainstream media, and Putin, he's a clever guy. He likes to tease the non-Russian world into thinking that he's softening. There's a lot of showmanship going on, and distraction is what the mainstream media do. If we're concentrating on what they're doing over there, we are forgetting what we need to do for Africa. It sucks our spirit because we're always on the back footing. That's my opinions. And mainstream media has been used for years to blind us to what direction to go into. And my opinion is it's a very dangerous interview. It's very dangerous that men like that can sit for 2 hours and the whole world stops to comment.
Right.
And that's the agenda, distract.
Thank you so much. No, thank you so much for your views. Brother Pidgin, can you unshare so I can share this video of Carlson this is Carlson at Dubai, just after he left Moscow. So let me share this video and let's compare it to what our brother has just said, our sister has just said. It's only 4 minutes long. It's only about 11 minutes long. We may not watch all of it, but here it is.
I don't think it contains any of.
Say that because I
Yeah.
believe in the United States. I think it has been a morally superior country. And if we allow our leaders to use our power to spread destruction for its own sake, that is shameful. It's a binary, okay? It's a black and white. It's a 0 and a 1. You are either creating or you're destroying. You're improving or you're degrading. And that's how you know whether something is good or bad, whether it's virtuous or evil. You just judge the fruits. By its fruits you will know it. And I'm very distressed and concerned that we are entering an era where this awesome force for good is instead being used for evil.
2 quick questions because I ran out of time. First question is, now in the American elections, we have probabilities.
Yes.
Either it's Biden and Trump, or Biden and somebody else, not Trump, or no Biden and no Trump, and circumstances or fate get us 2 different people representing Republican or Democrats. What do you think, where are we going to reach coming 19th of November? Who will be running the show?
Honestly, I haven't the faintest idea. But I think there's volatility ahead in our political sphere. I mean, clearly there is, because...
I like you when you said, I don't have an idea. You have this courage to say that you don't know. You were telling me this morning that one of the things which you like very much about here, our President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, God bless him, when you ask him a question, if he doesn't have an answer, he tells me, actually, I don't know the answer of this question.
I've never heard a leader of anything, whether it's a country or a company or a soccer team, ever in my life, in a life spent interviewing people, I've never heard a single one of them say, you know, I don't know the answer. It's very complicated. I haven't figured it out. I've never heard anybody say that. And to me, that is the purest sign of wisdom, because wisdom grows from humility. Wisdom grows from the recognition that you are not God. And in the United States, we had a period where we were sort of, having this debate about, are some religions good and some religions bad? I'll tell you my view on it, and it's a hardened view. It's a sincere view. I divide the world not between Muslim, Jew, and Christian or Buddhist. I divide the world between people who believe they're God and people who know they're not. And the only people I trust are in the second category, because that is the beginning of wisdom. When you know you are not God, that you cannot affect every change that you want, that you can't foresee the future, that you're not omnipotent, then you are much more likely to make good decisions, wise, humane decisions. By contrast, when you believe you have the power to shape the world and other people, as we were hearing this morning through biohacking, when you think you can create a better human being through technology, you're very dangerous, because you don't understand your own limits. You will get a lot of people killed when you have those false beliefs, in my opinion.
By this note, Mr. Carlson, thank you very much for giving us this chance to come for the first time after your great interview to talk to the world through this podium and this country and my humble self. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is it. Now, let's hear from more sisters before I come to brothers. So let's hear from Sister Myra.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. For me, the takeaway for me was
yes, Sister Myra. You need to unmute yourself, Sister Myra.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Brother Kwame. So for me, my takeaway was it was like an exhibition in how the idealists think in this modern day and age, because he talked about domination. We see how he talks about the coups that the CIA have engineered. He said that the world is changing, but instead of adapting, America is just using force, domination. And Tucker was trying to bring in China. They're very, they're paranoid about China. But Russia said, we've been neighbors for a long time, you know? And he said, even you look at their philosophy is about compromise. And we see that. We see it in their actions. So it's not even a problem. And it was like a by the way, it's not even an issue, you know? So you see how he views the world versus how the idealists view the world. You know, they use fear. He said the boogeyman, Russia is a boogeyman. They want war. He said, but why would we want war? Because if we start a war, then we put the whole world in danger. Who wants that? You know? So for me, it was a very good exhibition on how we study about how the idealist views of the world in every Thursday. And to me, it's a very good example of that still that's how they see the world. They want to mold it. They have these ideas which are really lies, you know, that they think is their reality. And the one question for me that I have, and I'm hoping that Brother Kwame will help to answer. I've been thinking since this interview thing started. The idealists, they dehumanize anything that doesn't look like them. They've dehumanized the world that doesn't look like them. But the Russians on the surface, if a Russian doesn't say or talk or speak and then you hear the accent, you think, yeah, this looks like a European. So I'm wondering why do the Western idealists other the Russians? What is it in the Russian that they don't like, that they also other? They want to kill them. They want to cause war. They want to destroy Russia, basically. So what is it philosophically that they don't, because they look like each other. So it's not about skin color now. It's not about skin color. So what is it that the idealists don't like in the Russian? That's really
my
last point is, I also like
Myra, that is a good point. We may not be able to answer that today, but yes, Putin did go on to explain how they want to destroy them and balkanize Russia, and so that they can attack China. So he did explain that that is a goal, to make Russia weak so they can attack China. But yeah, go on.
And I also, his view of the world is, because he talked about security. I'm left with 20 minutes. Thank you, Brother Kwame. I didn't hear that bit, but on the interview. So he said that security shouldn't be about one country dominating the rest and providing security. No, it should be shared. It should be it should be a global issue where we're all working together. And I like that view of the world. We are different peoples, from Asia, from Africa, from Tato Island, which they now call the colony of America. We were all different people. We have something to contribute together. And I really, really like that. And I feel like that's something that also us as Pan-Africanists, we're fighting for in our own corner. We want our world to be strong so that we can contribute with other worlds in the world.
Thank you. It's interesting that we are told that he's a dictator. This is a dictator saying that security must be shared. Yes. And those who are not dictators are those who don't want to share security. I find that very, very telling. Let's hear from Sister Pamela, and then we'll go to the men. Brother Pigeon, get ready to chair the next session. Sister Pamela, would you like to share your view on the interview? Of course, you can pass if you don't want to.
Yes, I'd like to pass, please. I'm just listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Brother Pigeon. Can you share the next session? Got a lot of hands up. Can you share this, please? Thank you.
So thank you. We will be having, of course, at least 3 minutes per person, or maximum 4. So we'll start with Brother Nkrumah Kafra. I'm not sure if I pronounced your name well. It's a pleasure to see you here. You had inquired earlier, in fact, attempting even to make a call to inquire the time, and I appreciate your presence. So kindly have your minutes and share with us what you think in regards to that lesson, what you learned from there, and what do you think Africa should do or must do. Brother Nkrumah?
Yes, peace and blessings to everyone. And I would like to begin by saying that we live in a world full of illusion. And before we can come to any conclusions as to how we can solve the problems of Black people, we need to clear up all of these illusions. Okay? The last civilization we had in the world was Kemet, ancient Egypt. Since then, all we have had is pure barbarisms. And I think that is clearly evident as to what is going on today. We don't live in civilization. This is what you call pure barbarism. And it is only Black people that have produced civilization in this world. No one else has been successful in producing civilization. And I would like to suggest that we need to go back and embrace our ancient Black spirituality, our ancient Black religion, because for ancient Black people, religion and spirituality are identical. All right? And if we are able to do that, we will clearly understand what is happening in the world. Because right now, there's a lot of confusion. People don't know, and we use our opinions to try to figure out what is going on. But just as there are opinions, there's the opposite of opinion, which is knowledge. All right, so we need to have the right knowledge to understand what is going on. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about some of the illusions. I heard a brother talk about how he celebrated when apartheid came to an end. And I would just like to inform you that apartheid never ended. As a matter of fact, the whole world is an apartheid system. It's a white supremacist system that is quote unquote controlling this world. And I want us to get something very clear about white folks. They give the illusion that they have power when they do not have power. If a man was truly powerful, he would not have to build up nuclear weapons to scare you and to threaten you and say, if you do so and so, we will drop this nuclear bomb on you. He is a coward. And I think that is very clear. Okay? And I don't want to get into what our ancient Black spirituality is about right now, because it could be a very lengthy topic. But I am saying to everybody on this platform, that is the solution to all the problems in the world. And definitely it is a solution to the problems that Black people are having. And unless we embrace our ancient Black spirituality and clearly understand what is going on in this world, we will remain enslaved. And that is my contribution to this afternoon's topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, comrade, and I do appreciate your contribution. If you wish maybe to enlighten us in one of the Saturday's timings on the Black spirituality, maybe even for an hour or half an hour, it will be our honor and we'll be pleased to do that. So just let us know, because we need to be aware of who we are. We cannot assume that we are aware of who we are, but we need actually to be reminded to be aware of who we are. So if you will be wishing maybe to share such function with us, we'll be appreciating that and we'll get in touch with you and see if that's possible. So let me go to...
Yes.
Thank you.
I would definitely appreciate that. Yes.
Thank you, brother. I'll get in touch with you. Let me go to Brother Coco. Brother Coco, please, you have 3 to 4 minutes.
Thank you, Brother Pigbin. Thank you, Brother Kwame, and all of you who have organized this session tonight. It's an interesting session. Also, I'm very grateful for the sisters who contributed in large numbers before all of us today. In my language, we say, Mosadi Otwaratipa Kabuhalen. I come from Lesotho. That means the woman holds the knife in the sharp end when things really get nasty, you have to trust the mother. You have to trust the woman. So thank you, ladies. One point I want to highlight here is history. And I would like to quote Dr. John Henrik Clarke when he said, "History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is a compass they use to find themselves on the map of human geography. It tells them where they are, but more importantly, what they must be." So we saw how Putin used history very well to tell Carlson what exactly happened in Russia and why they had to go to Ukraine. We as Africans, we know history, but somehow we are sort of forgetting history. We are forgetting our history lessons, what the Western worlds have done to us, especially what the USA has done to us. We have lots and lots of American bases on the continent. We are actually caught in trouble again, and we need to learn. Moving away from there, I need to raise a point here about what Professor Chomsky called manufacturing consent. Under manufacturing consent, the Western media gives us an idea that we live in democracy. We don't live in democracy. Democracy is defunct. Democracy is dead. What they do is the corporates own everything. The corporates control the narrative. They control what happens. And what the media has been doing is the boogeyman, is what Sister Myra mentioned, and one other speaker. They talked about the boogeyman, the bad man. You know, during the Cold War, it was the USSR. It was communism. And due to communism, they had to come into Africa and protect the American interests, not the African interests. And when I mean American interests, I mean the assassination of ancestor Patrice Lumumba, toppling of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the killing of Mumi, killing of Fanon, and everything that they have done to Sekou Touré and his Guinea. It was there. They gave us a hell of a lot, a tough time. And they supported apartheid South Africa. Let's not forget that. Then John Perkins, who wrote The Confessions of an Economic Hitman, he wrote that somehow secretly grateful that what he was doing as an economic hitman, he was being sent to the third world, toppling governments or forcing governments into debts. But what happened? Now he is doing another one. It's called the New Economics, the New Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which has come home. It has come home to roost because they realize now that they are here in the West. The corporates and lobbyists are here in the world. They control the narrative here in the West. It has always been the case, but they were either blind or decided not to see it. But I liked the interview. That interview showed how much they tried to put a wedge between China and Russia so they can get to China in a way. But unfortunately, they are dealing against another cold-blooded calculator and manipulator. But we should not forget what they have done. We should not forget how they used Saddam against Iran after the Islamic Revolution, and then later went back and toppled Saddam. We should not forget what they have done to Gaddafi. It says they can do anything they want. And funny enough, they put someone like Johnson, Boris Johnson, who we know his weaknesses are, as a prime minister. Really? First of all, as a foreign secretary, people were laughing at him. But he then won because it's the conservative party here in this country which choose who the prime minister is. Only a handful of people. So we need to think again about this democracy. We need to think carefully, my brothers and sisters. I yield.
Thank you, Brother Coco, for that. Let's go to Brother Roger.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. It's been a little while, so thank you for this very interesting subject, which has drawn me back momentarily, at least. It's interesting, this discussion so far. I have to say straight away, I haven't seen the interview at all, apart from the clips that have been shown here. And I'm due to do that. But my comments really are kind of just more general, and from what I've ascertained about the Putin how can I say, forays into the West and consciousness and that kind of thing. Anyway, to get on a bit more with that, it's interesting here to have so many differing opinions. In fact, some of them directly conflict with others, or at the very least, they're not aligned. So it would be interesting to see to what extent people who hold one opposing idea, how well they feel that they might be persuaded by what other people say here. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody is fully aware that there are some sharply conflicting comments that have been made. Not that we're here to debate with each other to that extent, but it's important to understand. I think there's little point in us sharing these very interesting opinions if we don't think about them, and if it doesn't change, or we either change our position or we find a way to say, well, no, we don't believe that. So I think that's important. Going to the actual subject at hand, I think Sister Joan made some really interesting comments. I am really keen either for her or somebody else to describe what we are distracted from. This distraction thing, I mean, this is a word that used to just, it's just infuriating. It's been around for ages. Everybody, as soon as somebody doesn't like something that's being shown or something that's being discussed or something that happens, often the word it's a distraction, or this is a distraction comes out, but distracted from what is never actually identified. So that would be useful. In terms of, but having said that, the observation she made about the event, one of them at least, is very interesting. Yes, it's really difficult at the moment to understand what's what. There is so much that you can't necessarily tell, assume that people are being, let's say, good, or they're changing their politics, or anything by what people say. The world, to me, unless somebody can demonstrate other examples, is becoming very, very, very confusing. So here we have someone like Tucker Carlson, who is the embodiment right now. We know that he's a racist. We know he's a white supremacist. And he actually can't even in that extract, he cannot actually stop himself from revealing this. These ideas of this paternalistic father coming to find two children fighting. I mean, it's classic, just crazy, right-wing, everything about it. So I won't even bother to give the adjectives, because everybody knows what that is. But he says this stuff self-assuredly. And what starts to become confusing is that somebody who's a white supremacist, right? And white supremacy is the ultimate expression of Westernism, somehow goes and gives a platform to somebody who is opposed to that, at least some key part of that. And that becomes confusing, because again, I haven't got lots of awful things to say about Putin, because I think that that's the game we're in. People do what they do when they're in this game. They knock off each other, they assassinate, they get power. And if I'm going to support anybody, I have to say I would support the underdog. That's the kind of person I am. And Russia certainly has been that, considering that the whole world is against them. And I think the point that they're basically a buffer, a barrier to get to China, is also incredibly important, because what people don't tend to understand is that Asians in general, China being a very large player in this, actually on a democratic basis, they have more people in the world than anyone else. Everybody who's Asian, if they were all to group together and vote, Africa can't take them. Nobody can. They are actually massive. I think they're nearing almost half, if not a third, of the entire population of the world. We are about, I think, 15%. The Europeans, i.e. white people, are about 15%. And the others are smaller. So if we were to say every one man for a vote and have democracy, the Asians would win on numbers. So having something like that, plus their economic power, brings you to a point to understand that they are a massive rising power. The world simply cannot forever stay the way that we're seeing it now. And white people are, to me, as a group, not individuals, as a group, are just pathologically opposed to that. To the point where I think they're prepared to destroy everything. I'm closing. They're prepared to destroy everything in order for if they can't have it, nobody can have it. And the idea of them not being powerful enough to do that is fanciful. They are powerful enough to destroy everything if we let them, or if we can't stop them, I should say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to segregate us and members present, if you permit us to do an extension by 25 minutes past 9, because we always end exactly 9, but we had interference around 25 minutes. So we request that we do an extension by 25 minutes past 9, please. If that's okay with us, then I can be able to take the hands up. Thank you very much for that. Brother Michael and then Brother Joseph, please come in. You are free to share your thinking. This is not a confined thinking room. So we ask everybody to share what they think. In that way, we can be able to free enough to build a consensus or build, I think it's not a must we arrive at a consensus, but this is a room for you to share what you think without any offense. Yes, Brother Michael?
Yeah, greetings, family. This is Brother Michael Fivex here. I mean, the sister spoke. She asked, why do they hate the Russians, right? And the Russians are the only ones who weren't involved in the slave trade. They refused. They're the only European country who refused to be part of the slave trade, right? And they're hated for that. This is even before the Soviet Union, right? The Russian royal family was betrayed by the other European royal family, and that's why they were killed. So historically, they're hated. What Putin did was he gave a history of Russia, and what we've got to understand is why Russia is key. Putin said it. If they can control Russia, they can attack China, because he said they share a border. So their aim is to destroy China, because China is the only superpower that can challenge them. And they have to destroy China. Tucker Carlson, he's not, there's no illusion about him. He is what he is, right? But what he did do, you're looking at the end of their rule. You're looking at Satan casting out Satan, right? And they are just turning on each other. Minister Farrakhan warned us 10 years ago that Black people were going to have to leave Europe. He said, the Honorable Elijah has said, the next world war will be in Europe. And we're seeing the offshoots of it now. You've got SAS in Ukraine. The war started. And it's going to be, you're seeing the rise of, Putin talked about Nazis, right? That hasn't gone away, right? And he showed, he's not a saint, what leader is a saint, right? But, the fact is that they've never been our enemy. They've always supported Black people. Even what's happening in Burkina Faso, Abraham Traore, he's done a deal with the Russians to supply him arms, right? So he can fight against if the French come or whoever comes. So we have to understand what's happening. I thought he was he showed, that when the questions he answered, America is not run by the president, is run by the CIA, the other interests that back them. And someone said about democracy, it's a key point, right? Because that's how they control Black countries. The illusion of democracy. If that leader isn't playing ball with them, they create problems, and then they can fund someone else, right? One of Warren Buffett's aides said the reason China was successful is because they had one policy, right? It was the rise of China. Didn't have no elections, even though they do have elections to allow, but it's still a communist manifesto. And there's something else I wanted to share, but it's lost me now. But yeah, democracy is used to control leaders in the Caribbean, in Africa, right? And they will just keep using that. And if we have to be united and understand that we need a certain formula now to unite. I believe, Julius Malema is heading in the right direction. Some of the Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger are all coming together, and we need to back them, even as well as the Caribbean. We need to come up as one unified people, and we're not always going to agree. We don't have to agree, right? We don't even have to like each other, but we have to understand that we've got one common goal, and that's our survival. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Thank you very much, Brother Michael. Brother Joseph, then Brother Renmi, then Chief Mabos, and then Brother Kwame will come in to handle the last session. Brother Joseph?
Yes, thank you, Brother Pigeon. I will start off with a quote from, not accurately, but a quote from John Henry Clark. I said it on the Thursday session we had, and it is, Europe did not only colonize most of the world, but it have colonized the information about the world. So we have to deal with that, the decolonization of the information that we have on various people. And let me hasten to say also, an African proverb says, you who ask questions cannot avoid the answers. And this is what we're trying to do here. The other one that says, there's one that says not to know is bad, but not to what to know is worse. And sometimes I get the impression that some of our people really resist knowing the truth. The thing about the interview is that it shows how much people are lacking in understanding, strongly speaking, in terms of the issues of the world. Most information a lot of us have about issues that affect the world come from song bites, sandwich with advertisement. So we don't really have a clear understanding of the songness of what is happening. And I think this interview, notwithstanding who PUTIN-CARLSON is, I mean, I know him, but I don't look at the messenger now. I see the message coming through the messenger, and it is very strong. In fact, I think that would be an interview that would be studied by scholars throughout the ages to come. People ask the question, why Russia? And the Russians look like whites, but you may be surprised to know that up until now, the mainstream Europeans do not accept the Russians as Europeans. They consider them, because they're from the Slavs, the Slavic nation, they consider them less than Europeans. So even when Putin told George, one of the Bush, look, we are now all bourgeois, why not we, just live together? They didn't take that seriously. So we need to know all these things. And one final point here, we need to understand, had it not been for the Soviet Union, and this is a well-kept secret, the countries that call themselves independent today would not have been independent, because one of the concessions the Soviet Union obtained from the Allies at the end of the war was to decolonize, to ensure that they give their colonies independence. And was the Soviet Union who ensured that. And as one speaker said, and this, whether it's Russia or the Soviet Union, they have never been against Africans. They, in fact, together with the Cubans, they helped to liberate South Africa. Thank you. I mean, they liberate South Africa in inverted commas because we know there's still work to be done in the South African case. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Brother Joseph. Let's go to Brother Inumi.
Okay, yeah, solidarity greetings, everybody. Yeah, I got to the interview. I've not seen much of it because I'm a bit distracted this week. The two of the Nigerian young entrepreneurs that got killed in California crash, chopper crash, were somehow connected to me in a way. So I've been distracted, so I've not had time to watch the interview in full. But what I can say about the interview is that the interview is a most welcome development. Like somebody was trying to say here, calling the interview a distraction. The interview is not actually a distraction. The interview is actually an establishment of system disruption. There is a system we're used to. There is a narrative we are used to. This is a new narrative, or this is a counter narrative, which can lead us to balancing, somebody rightly also said that most of what we have around, what media try to print, what they try to project are opinions. But it's for somebody who understands opinion, who has an insight or insight of measuring opinion, of sieving opinions to extract the truth, which established knowledge is the person that can actually understand medias when they play their games. Today, we might be casting some names, but we have other people on CNN, Amapo, and these other guys that do interview on CNN, trying to shape opinion. Yeah, the person conducting interview might have his own baggages, but like we say around here, forget the messenger, pick the message. Putin has a message, and he knows how to get it across to the world. He knows, like Brother Kwame has already pointed out, that Russian media have been disrupted from Western world. And he knows that this granting interview to this guy will take his opinion into the door mouth of people that have been denied hearing Russian side of the story. Why not seize that opportunity? So for me, the interview is a welcome system disruption that we need to boost our morale as Africans, to keep us on our toe that we should not be defeated. We should not give up yet. Though Western narratives, both history and their mainstream narration, have tried to write us out of history. They've tried to undermine our position. It is a good thing that we are realizing that Russia, China are coming up with counter narratives. They are telling us other side of the story, so that it's now left for us to put these opinions together and come to the real knowledge of what is happening. Like it is reported that the Western world is full of shenanigans. There is no civilization, like somebody already said. Western world has been hoisting barbarism on humanity. And the earlier all of us can do what we can do from our own corners to bring up counter narratives so that we can change the world order from disruption, from the from the wrong history of Western world. When they kill other people, they put it in good names. But when their own people are killed, they make it look like those people that are killed are special than other people that they have killed. They kill many people to establish their own narratives. They kill people that are against them. They use a lot of their agents to do other underworld things, but when they want to do it, they count it in so many words, human rights, all that stories, so that some people will be made to believe that they are police of the world. In what conference do we sit and appoint America as the police of the world? Even if they are police of the world, like somebody we also saw in a clip, a police of the world should be reasonable enough to scold two erring people he is supposed to be guiding. Not that he'll be arming one to kill the others and be putting the narrative, calling the other person bad guys. Like somebody said, I'm writing up. Yeah, I'm even impressed that we extended this today's session, because we're always concerned about time. I'm actually going to ask for, maybe we should have is part 2. Maybe this particular narration should have a second day that we'll look into this interview, because people like me, I want to go back, take time to watch the interview actually and see what exactly are the content of Putin's narration. So let me run there. I'm impressed by what Her Royal Highness Palace has said, Mary X, all of them, what they have expressed. These are things we look at. We need to, like the magazine we are expressing here, like Kwame Riley said, we need to actually either we get our own magazines, we work to see our own magazines so that we can control our own narration. We should put our narration there. We should not be expecting other people to extend their own narration, because they are not narrating our story. They are telling their own story. We should endeavor to tell our own story, so that because like until the lion starts telling his own story, the story of the hunter will always glorify the hunters, not the lion. So we need to, Africans, we need to learn to tell our own story, because that's the only way we can establish our own position. That's the only way we can change the knowledge, because we've been badly informed, we've been badly educated.
Thank you.
We need to have a counterbalance of narration so that we can have better opinion.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Inumi. I do agree with you. Of course, Dr. Kress says that media is one of the weapons that they have coded in order to continue colonizing us. So we don't avoid media, but we decode their media system by having our media view on what is necessary, because we cannot run away from that. So thank you for that. Let me go to Chief Mabaso, and then Brother Kwame will come in to chair the last session. Chief Mabaso. Oh, Chief. Chief, apologies. Chief, apologies. Your network is very bad, please. Kindly.
I am Chief Mabas. I'm from South Africa.
Chief, yes. Apologies.
I'm from South Africa. Yes, I'm from South Africa. Okay, you can't hear me?
No, your network is not that stable. Try a bit. Okay. Just try to come back. Your network is not that stable, but try to come back. We will be looking forward to hear from you. So in our place, then let's go with the Sam Motau, but Chief, please come back. Sam? Okay. Brother Kwame, can you take off from the second session? We have John, we have Nkrumah, and you have Sam Motau's hand is up, and we expect the Chief to be back, please, to share our thinking.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Pigeon, for sharing that, for sharing the earlier part. We are in the last session. I like Brother Inumi's suggestion that we have a part 2 of this. Maybe something we should consider. But we also need to hear from the Congo. As we all know, the Congo is the richest part of Africa. And in the early days of the decolonization movement, Ghana sent a contingent of its armed forces, soldiers, to go and secure the life of Patrice Lumumba, who, as we all know, the Ghana armed forces did not take orders from the government of Ghana, and Patrice Lumumba was killed. And the Congo is so vital to the future of Africa in terms of minerals and the rivers and its resources. And so the Congo has been destabilized for so long. So we have a brother there who is going to be doing a presentation on the Congo for us. And so it's okay to do a second session on this interview, but we'll hear from the Congo first, I think, next week. And then the week after, we can do this interview part 2.
No, the week after, we are checking on the Caribbean, already in the plan. The Caribbean want us also to get their story because they are feeling that the African continent is forgetting the Caribbean as their brothers.
Yes, in fact, no, thank you for that. They not just the Caribbean, but what we called the diaspora, which is an important extension of Africa. So yeah, so it's important that we remember that that's our 6th region, the region of Africa. Our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, in Brazil, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so basically, we will hear from them and then from the Congo and so on. I think one of the things that hasn't been discussed so far is the economic angle. And if anybody wants to talk about that, that will be wonderful, because you see, the control of the global economy. Sorry, somebody's dog is barking. I think it's probably Chief's dog. Yeah, I've just muted that.
The Chief is back.
So the control of the global economy, as you know, is based on the dollar. So it is through the dollar that the United States of America is able to control the world economy. And for those of us who know the history, it was used to crush the Ghanaian economy under Kwame Nkrumah, and all the development projects or the industrialization of Africa, starting with Ghana, that Nkrumah had in mind, was basically undermined because the US, they used the dollar to crash the price of cocoa, and then that affected the foreign exchange reserves of Ghana. There were other reasons, and so up until the war or the invasion of Ukraine, however you want to see it, the American dollar was used by the United States to control the global economy. And I'm saying nobody has touched on this. That's why I am mentioning it. Now, what happened is that when the war started, the political elites or the political leadership in America decided to freeze the dollar assets of Russia. And so, and then to bar them from the international exchange system called SWIFT, which is used to send money here and there. So they barred them from that. And the idea was that the Russian economy will then crash. And the Russian economy crashes, the Russian people will rise up against Putin, and then they'll have regime change. And with the regime change, they will come in and balkanize Russia, which means turn it into smaller states. Because Russia is as a federation is huge. I mean, it's a big country. And so they want to break it up into smaller states. I'm mentioning this to draw our attention to the fact that it exposes the real mind of America in terms of Africa. So they want us to remain balkanized. By balkanized, we mean separate and small neo-colonial territories as Africa is now. The goal of the United States of America's political leadership is to keep Africa balkanized into 55 separate states, each with its president. People of about 1.3 billion, we are about 1.3 billion or thereabouts, and we know China is about 1.4, just more than us. And yet China, about 1.4 billion people, have just one, if you like, president, if you like, one central government. Africa, 55. Now, you don't need rocket science to tell you that there's something wrong somewhere and that our leaders are not thinking. Well, how can they think? They become zombies, liberal and conservative zombies. And as Brother Koko keeps reminding us, there really is no democracy in Africa. And Brother Pigeon has shared with us in this very forum the markers of good democracy. And if you look at democracy, what is a democracy? Africa is nowhere near it. And it's been used to manipulate the new colonial world and so on. So I'm mentioning all this to draw attention to the fact that what has happened is that Russia, along with Brazil and other countries, China and so on, have now created an alternative to the SWIFT. And so they are not trading anymore in dollars. Do we understand what that means for Africa? It means that the domination of the United States, its ability to control all of us using the dollar, is over. It is over. And China, in terms of GDP, as I understand it, have overtaken the US. So here we're going to have the big economies, if you like, now trading in their own currencies, the ruble, gold, and so on. And so, just like that, America today has lost the power to control us. It means that, and remember, this is why Gaddafi was killed. Gaddafi was killed because he said that Africa should set up its own central bank and have its own currency. And the Libyan banks and Libyan gold will be used to what? To back the African currency. And the US said, no, this will not happen. Not on our watch. Saddam Hussein was also killed, you remember, because Saddam Hussein also floated the idea of trading in a non-dollar currency. You see, so let us pause as we are discussing the Putin interview, what Putin has revealed or told us, some of which we already know. Let us think about the economic implications of what he described in terms of the liberation, unification, and the development of Africa. Africa cannot develop if it does not have its own currency. And when Gaddafi proposed the denarii as the African currency, apart from the fact that some African leaders were too stupid to understand, let's leave that one aside. What has happened is that what Gaddafi envisaged has happened. It has happened because of the stupidity of the American political leadership. These are not my words. These are Putin's words. But they're not just the words of Putin. The stupidity of the megalomaniac Americans, is also, those words are even used by Candace Owens. Candace Owens even goes further than Putin in the way that she describes the American political leadership. She describes them as geriatrics, who have no understanding of what is going on. They don't understand the world in which they live. All they want is political domination of the world. And that is the agenda that came out in the interview. So I disagree with John. I hear, but I disagree that it's a distraction. In fact, it has drawn our attention to the fact that the strategic aim of the US, the political leadership of the West, is continued economic domination of the world. And that's why they want to take out Russia and destroy China. Because as for Africa, they think we are like a carpet for them to walk on anyway. So they don't even need to worry about us because they have idiots in office. Yeah, all over, 55. I mean, are you really thinking 55? 55 separatists. Come on. Are you serious? No, clearly you can't be serious. So I just thought I would draw our attention to the economics, which nobody has mentioned so far, the economics dimension I mean, the international economic dimension, you know, of what the war in Ukraine has. But now, even if we are against the so-called dictator, which some of them say he is, even though he wants shared security, you know, if we are against the war in Ukraine and say, oh, Putin is so bad, Putin is evil, Putin is this, well, how dare he invade Ukraine and so on, you know, even if we are against it, one of the outcomes is that it has opened up the currency world. And however bad we think Putin is, I think we should be grateful to him for making it possible for the American domination through the dollar, for which Gaddafi was killed, which has plunged that part of the world into chaos. And as a result, a lot of our people now are free to cross the Mediterranean, and we know they die in their numbers and so on. Because when Gaddafi was there, he prevented it. But with his demise, the floodgates were opened, and a lot of Africans are dying in the Mediterranean. So, sorry for the lengthy contribution on that, but I thought I should draw that to our attention. Let's now hear from those whose hands were up, and then we will conclude. The time is 19 past 9. Brother Pigeon, if you don't mind, can you, because I've spoken so much, can you chair the next session, please? Thank you. Brother Pigeon, are you able to? I think Brother Pigeon is not ready. So let me.
I'm here, Brother Kwame, but just proceed. I think we have the next. We are almost 6 minutes to go, unless there's something that urgent.
Yeah, I'll suggest you chair the rest of that 6 minutes.
So permit me just to take a minute recap to the 4 hands up, and I'll not take more hands, please. So John, a minute, then Nkrumah a minute, then Coke a minute. Just a minute to make you 5 minutes, 4 minutes, so we have 2 minutes to wind up.
Thank you.
John?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to explain what I mean by distraction, because I think it's quite important. Someone's muted me.
I apologize. I was trying to get your hand down. Joan, I'm very, very sorry.
No, it's all right. I just wanted to say it's very important that I clarify what I mean by distraction. People may agree or disagree, but it's worth also listening before we decide whether something's wrong or right. When I talk about distraction, what I mean is there's been thousands of years of distraction, of doing things to undermine the African narrative, undermine the African economy, to undermine its own self-determination. And when I use the terminology distraction, one of the things that is key about Africa is there's an African spirit. And often Western media sucks that spirit dry, demotivates and disorientates. That's what it does. And when I talk about distraction, I'm referring to something that Nkrumah Kafra was kind of referring to, which is if we get sucked into these wormholes, we can learn from them, of course. We can understand what people are doing, what the strategy is globally, who's going to win, who's going to lose, who's going to take charge. But when I talk about the word distraction, I mean, I'm not a hippie or anything, but watching that sort of stuff and consuming it, even though I actually like watching it to see the games they play, it can actually eat you spiritually. It can suck your own strength and misdirect your emotions to what they're doing rather than what we are doing. I understand that we have to know and research what everybody is doing, but ultimately It's a war of economy and land. And often whatever they're doing is at some point undermining the African determination. We know that. We don't have to ask them. They'll ultimately want the Western world to benefit with whatever agenda they have. So when I talk about distraction, it's a constant sucking of strength. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much. In fact, the media is their tool to control us. So they have to use it to control us, not to liberate us. We only have to use it ourselves to liberate ourselves, not to be under their control. Yes, Brother Nkrumah Kafara, please, in the next 1 minute.
Yeah, I'll be very quick. I just wanted to make some comments on democracy. There is no illusion of democracy. What we see is what democracy is about. The white man always speaks with forked tongue. To bring it home, if there were a group of 100 parents who had to vote on whether they should allow their children to take cocaine, and 99 parents voted to allow their children to take cocaine, and 1 parent voted no, should we allow our children to take cocaine? Obviously not. Democracy is a farce. Democracy is a hypocrisy. It is nothing good. And we do not need democracy in Africa.
Thank you.
One last point here. Money has no value. Its value is artificial and illusory and is forced upon the world. Economics is about the big stick method. Economics is slavery. Kemet, the greatest civilization the world has ever known, had no currency. The devil created money. Thank you.
Thank you. Your statements, of course, are worth discussion, further discussions as we move on with the further engagement in other terms. Thank you very much for your attendance and your contribution. Brother Coco, a minute, please.
Yeah, thank you. Brother Kwame, great intervention, but unfortunately you gave us a very limited time to respond. So maybe when we have a second round, then we can cover the economic angle to this. I agree partly with you, Brother Nkrumah, that money only depends on the value you get. Money on its own is useless, it's nothing. Fiat, this is what the US managed to use to control the world by refusing to honor the legal tender of their currency to the gold standard. Then they made it such that everyone depended on the US currency as a reserve currency.
Thank you.
What I'm saying is, before that, everyone else was still depending on the gold standard. But with the US deciding to choose not to honor that and make the US currency their paper money, their reserve currency, and the world allowing them, then it happened. And how did that happen? All the institutions are for them. They control the UN. They control the World Bank. They even control the IMF. So we need to think about this carefully. But last, before I close, Brother Pigbin, is the fact that we as African countries is only in uniting can we control what we produce and how much is sold for and how much our currencies are. Many thanks.
Thank you. I think you brought up the second part of this will be on the economics. So we'll be looking this interview probably on the economics aspect. And you see, it was touched a lot in economics. So I think that will be a very good part of this, part 2 of this. Brother Roger, yes, I can't close you out, Brother Roger, please.
Yeah, I'm going to be very short. I disagree with almost everything Nkrumah Kafara has said this evening. I leave that there. I don't think that spirituality is the answer to everything. I think there's a place for it, but in conscientism, we are very much materialists, and so we're not going to, get sucked into all of this ethereal nonsense. Well, sorry, I don't want to be disrespectful to it, but ethereal uncertainty is a better way of putting it. The antidote to media distraction and control is critical thinking. The media is what it is. It's a creation that we've created as human beings, but it's controlled. Yes, it is. It can be dangerous. Yes, it is. But the key to that is to get our minds in a position where we can be critically thinking. I agree with Kwame that we should focus very closely on the economic aspects of all of this. And I'm looking forward to whenever we can come back to this subject. It may be that another interview or something like that happens very soon after the rest of the program that you have planned out, is done. So thank you very much. That's me.
Thank you very much, comrades. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for your contributions. Indeed, today it was an open conversation, and I think it has actually met our expectation and our standards. Even though, as we always say in our class, the key question Nkrumah asked was action. What must be done? And I think as Africans, what we must do is actually to act. Start putting the process of action based on the thoughts, based on understanding on news we get across. What are the most practical actions we must take? And the key action we must take is to start initiating the unification of Africa. Because out of the fall or the disruption from the USSR and now the China that is united, the West want to break China because of their unity. And it's a threat to them because of their unity. And therefore, the only action point to us as a people is our unity. Our unity is only our salvation, because our population is what a command. Our population is what we are. Our population is our asset, but we don't take proper use of it. So, comrades, we actually appreciate your full times here. And as we've said, it has already come out clearly that our second version should be the economics of this angle. And I know we have economists in the house who will help us dissect the economics of this angle. As you have to know very well that all these are tools for control. Media, law, politics, sex, everything else, economics are still tools of controls. So how do we decode them and actually put them for our own liberation than our own control, you see? Because we need to liberate ourselves using the same tools. So thank you very much. On Saturday, as it has been said, the next Saturday, we want to look at Congo properly. Let's give attention to Congo. Let's understand the history behind it. But let's come out with what is the proper action can we take? Can we take the Congo issue to ICJ or ICC or AU meeting or anywhere else? Because the Congo issue need to be beyond just talks. It needs to be actions, because the number and the population of our people dying there is really threatening. So we as a class looks forward to the next Saturday for a proper Congo dimension on what we as Pan-Africans can together and collectively do for our brothers of Congo, because we are one. So thank you very much, comrades, and we look forward to have you again next Thursday. This link is available every Saturday. So if you don't get any other invite, just save this link. Every Saturday, 7 p.m., just log in, and we'll have you with us to join this conversation. As we say, we are a philosophical class, and we accept thinking and sharing of critical thinking. We encourage critical thinking. So without much ado, I want to end it here. Brother Kwame, in case there's anything else, you can let us know. Brother Kwame?
Yeah, just to say thank you, iPhone 57. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Coco. Thank you, Nkrumah. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Myra. Thank you, Ola. You didn't say much today, but thank you anyway. Thank you, John. Thank you, Ida, who inspired this Saturday discussions. And then Brother Pigeon, thank you also for very much. And yeah, so thank you all for coming. We look forward to seeing some of you on Thursday and also on next Saturday. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Bye.